we did a giveaway in the last video, and now we're gonna find the winner. I hope I can get this right. So I found a website. The first recording, we're gonna pick a winner. And let's see. Dennis, since you're a nice person, we should push for your nice content, bro. Thank you, man. And in-game name is Kemikali. Thanks a lot for commenting and watching my video and letting you receive your Fixatron 5000. Seems to be sent. Oh shit. Alright, made a message to send it, so you're gonna get that in another mail. So congrats, man. Alright, so for the next giveaway, we're giving away 560 Bazaar tokens. It's not much, but I want to have 2 items left for the remaining of the giveaway. That's going to be the next one. If you want to win, same, comment anything and leave your in-game name so I can send it to you. And that is it. You don't need to subscribe, you don't need to like the video, but if you want to, feel free to, but it's not a requirement to win the item. But if you don't want to miss the giveaways, it could be a good idea to find my videos in that way. So let's get into the video. In Season 9, Elemental Lord was split into 4 different pieces. The core of it is still the Elemental Lord that the build revolves around. And with the Elemental Lord, we use it to empower the free shaman shocks. One of the pieces Elemental Lord was split into is the Elemental Domination. It removes the cooldown of Elemental Blast, and without it, the build basically doesn't work. So the basics are we are casting Elemental Blast, thus buffing one of the free Shaman Shock. This is random, so sometimes it can feel kinda lackluster. We are not hitting the one we are wanting to hit, but sometimes we can just get the perfect rotation and it feels very good. So there is some good and bad with it. Sometimes it feels very good. So to put it in perspective, if you played Roll the Bones, Outlaw Rogue in retail, it can feel a bit like that. Another thing in Season 9, now we have 3 different additional Shaman Shocks you can try to roll. The main one is Stone Shard, since it has reduced the global cooldown and making it rotation very more pleasing. The other 2 shocks I haven't rolled on my build, but I've seen the Frost Flame Shock does a lot of damage for another person using the Elemental Lord. And for the Ice Shock, it requires you to have combo points. The main resource I can think of to get combo points is either Energy Bolt or Honor Among Thieves. So what are the buffs you get from casting the shocks? The main one is from the Frost Shock and the Fire Shock. These are buffing our Lava Burst. The Frost Shock gives us 50% more damage, and the Fire Shock gives us a full reset on Lava Burst, making us casting it again. Sometimes you get a random proc from it, but it's not the main reason. And we're also getting 30% crit for our pit. Alright, for the main spell of the build, Elemental Blast. If you don't know, it's all 3 types of elemental skills. It is Nature, Frost and Fire. So it benefits from a lot of nice talent that you normally cannot combine. The main is Ignite, because it's a fire. That is the main thing we're gonna buff, the fire component. But we're also getting some other nice things. We're getting Winter's Chill. So this will proc from Elemental Blast, and it also procs from Frost Shock. So you don't need, as you can see, I don't even have it full talented. So you can even just have it a 2 out of 3, and it should still give a lot of benefits. Another part of Elemental Lord is buffing our Elemental. So that is from the 2 shocks I mentioned. The Frost Shock, we get 3% mana, both to ourselves and for our pets. And with this mana, we basically never runs out of mana, as you can see in the clip here. And the Fire component, as I said, we get the 30% crit. That is a lot of crit for a pet. We also have the legendary Tethered Power. I haven't rolled this on mine, but it will greatly increase the damage of Elemental Blast and give us a 30% crit chance, making it easy to crit cap with the legendary I'm going to show later. And by using the Tethered Elemental, we are getting probably one of the best value talents, the Power of the Elemental, 5% crit and 5% hit. And other talents you can be looking out for is the crit talents, Ferocity and Improved Demonic Tactics to further increase the pet's crit to proc Tethered Power. And when you're rolling for talent, since we're using Tethered Elemental, we're actually buffing this pet quite a lot. So you could be looking out for talents such as Tesla's Coil Collar, because we're basically casting the spells anyway, so it will basically just be free damage. And if you can weave in an Energy Bolt in your rotation, and if you have the Pact Tactics and Sinister Transfusion, it's basically free to get the damage increases, but I don't know how, I don't have this combo, but I don't know how smooth the rotation would be from doing this. Another thing we greatly benefit from in this build is because we're casting 3 different types of elemental schools. So from the Legacy of the Arcanist, if we have this, besides the arcane component, we are getting 3 different meteors, and they do a lot of damage, and actually also give us some AoE. We are benefiting from Elemental Liquium. It's very hard to benefit from this normally, but Elemental Blast is probably one of the easiest way to proc it. And since we're casting all of the shaman schools, we're also benefiting from booming echoes for our shocks. So a legendary I want to highlight for the build that I didn't roll is Primordial Aftershocks. This is a good reason to being crit capped on Elemental Blast, and also why I mentioned the pet talent that will give us a 30% crit from Elemental Blast. I didn't roll this. If you can card this, card it, or just keep a lookout for it. In Season 9 we're also able to combine different legendaries, so I'm not just playing Elemental Lord, I guess, I'm also playing Booming Thunder. So Booming Thunder is actually probably better in this build because we're getting 4 stacks from Elemental Blast, and we're getting a 3 stack from Reverberation. The Reverberation is when we deal damage with a Shaman Shock, we get benefit to our next different Shaman Shock or Elemental Blast. So it's actually pretty quick to get the Booming Thunder stacks. For the abilities I went for starter abilities, there are 2 mandatory ones. I would say you always go Earth Shock and Tether Elemental, unless you pick the Stone Shard Earth Shock. And the other 2, I just took Arcane Intellect because it's the passive buff that benefit us the most from level 1. And then I took Lightning Bolt basically just to level, but besides that later on it doesn't do anything for us. For our skill cards, I would say you basically always pick the 4 mandatory ones, the ones that you need to have in your rotation. If you're missing any of those, the rotation would be kinda awful. And if I was to replace anything, I would say replace Flame Shock because you can roll it from level 10, so you have more chances to do it. And you could be like high roll carding something like Arcane Power, Elemental Mastery, Power Infusion, any of the haste talents, stuff like that. Alright, for legendaries for this build, it doesn't seem like any of the legendaries were found on the Discord. If they're getting found, I will link to the Discord where you can look out for them. But I would say there are 2 need to have legendaries for this build, Elemental Damnation and Elemental Lord. And then the third one would basically be Primordial Aftershocks. I didn't have this, so I used Booming Thunder instead. But I will also say that Booming Thunder is very nice for the playstyle. It just works very well, scaling Earth Shock damage from all of these shock increases and then from Booming Thunder. Very nice combination when you combine 2 legendaries. The 4th one would be Ignite because Lava Burst and Elemental Blast, also Flame Shock, are some of the spells we are casting the most. What else would I card? I carded Reverberation, so I would say that is also very strong. Just getting cooldown reduction, especially if you don't have the Primordial Aftershock, and also giving stacks to Booming Thunder. And other options you can see here and the card as you will, and card if whatever cards you have the highest in golden. For the random enchants I use, I haven't min-maxed this. I'm basically just using Shaman and Shock one, so Concussion, Booming Echoes, Lava Flows, some haste, and then for the rest, I think Call of Flame is pretty good for the lava burst damage. Also using Lunar Guidance. This I think is basically mandatory because you're scaling so many different spells. The last one I have Critical Mass. I don't think is that good. I would rather, if I had it but haven't been out and farming it, either Demonic or Draconic Elemental Blast to get the 6% damage or 9% crit. Quickly going over again, what did I card and what did I hit? At that point when I started this build, I didn't have tethered power, so I just carded Booming Echoes. And for my abilities, I carded the ones I shown. Also, as you can see here, I don't have, so I can have any selection of the cards I choose. I only have the tethered power and golden, sadly. Alright, very quickly rundown. I didn't hit any stands. I didn't hit any of the power infusion haste increase. I didn't hit arcane power. I don't have that many increases, weapon enchant, stuff like that. For my spells I have a few nice things. I hit Spellslinger and Elemental Focus. Spellslinger is a lot of my damage. I hit the casting Shaman spells, trigger an additional Shaman spells. This can be nice, and this can probably randomly proc Elemental Mastery. I have been somewhat lucky in hitting some of the Intellect Scaling, Lunar Guidance, and some of the Mind Mastery. Just needing more of the Just Int increase to increase my spell power that way. Hitting the Astral Knowledge and any of the talents would work. Yeah, and also the ferocity, 5% intellect. Also been very lucky in hitting the legacy of the Arcanist. If you have this in golden, you could also card it, but I was just lucky to roll it. I also have the honor amongst thief if I was to ever try the ice shock one with the combo points. I also have the 2 out of 3 Moonfire combo. So the combo, so to say, is Moonfire combined with Moon Touched. So you will just always have Moonfire on your target, and Moon Touch will increase your spell damage and your crit chance to the target. For other nice things to look for, I have the Purification by Light. So if I ever hit the 5 out of 5 Shadow Power, this is a nice combination. I also, for my crit talent, I have the Burnout. And if I ever hit the Elemental Fury, I have the Elemental Focus. And since Elemental Blast is nature, we can also be looking out for the Vengeance talent for increased magic damage. So other combos I'm looking for and want to test in the build, I really want to see if you can do the Backstab Elemental Assassin. This is probably the way to get the biggest earth shocks in the game. Could be a lot of fun. And also looking for the Shamanistic Rage combo, so Shamanistic Rage Primordial Fury. I'm not sure how much Primordial Fury would do of damage, but if you have the Endless Shamanistic Rage, you can have a lot of uptime on your Shamanistic Rage. And for the rest of the talents, any crit talent, haste talent would work. Stuff like Thundering Strikes, Critical Mass, any crit, any haste, and a pushback talent is always nice. And yeah, more intellect scaling. For the gear I used on the dummy and in the raid, I just used my Wild Imp gear. It's just spell power and some intellect, not really scaling high intellect, but the pieces always have some. And the other option could be the Arcanist set. If I had this fully enchanted and stuff like that, I would probably be using this instead. It also, because this build really benefits a lot from crit because of Ignite, and the build also benefits a lot from crit, like the Earth Shock, getting a lot of crit damage from Booming Thunder. Another option you could be looking for is the Suldar Argur set. So it actually have the free set bonus of increasing the damage by your Shaman Shocks by 5%. But you will be sacrificing a lot of power from the Arcanist 8 set bonus, so this is maybe a better combo to look for and to test when we have the free set from AQ Temple. And the infamous conclusion time. So the playstyle can be awkward because of the RNG and the nature of Elemental Lord, but with the RNG it makes an insanely fun playstyle. Like, you get rewarded and you have to react to procs and stuff like that, and not many legendaries and rotation achieve this in Ascension today, because there's a lot of, like, you just spam one button, and either you spam one button or you make it into a cast sequence and you fall asleep. It can be good if you're having longer precision, and I heard that people with the raid trials are now sitting in a raid in like 6 hours for the +2 and the +3 raids. So there it makes more sense to have a cast sequence perhaps. So you saw me doing 7 to sometimes 10k on burst, but it can be very hard to tell how high a ceiling a build has. Like for the Wild Imps, it was quite easy and quick to see that that build had 10k DPS, but when you're starting out with just barely reaching 10k DPS, it can be a lot harder to see what the potential of a build has. I'm right now reaching the 7 to 9k dummy DPS, but I'm missing a lot of stuff that could really improve the build. I also haven't yet tested the build for longer fights, where the build can stabilize more, but that would also be more fights where you are allowed to stand still to cast the Elemental Burst and the Lava Burst. And the build has some nice movement in that it's okay to be casting the shocks and you can sidestep meanwhile the GCD. But even though the build is not like top tier as a Wild Imp build, the Wild Imp build has a lot of downsides on some bosses where this build can really shine. For example, the damage is not insane. We could see that there's a potential to scale it if you really min-max it, but with this build, since we're using Booming Thunder and Earthshock, I was critting with Earthshock for 30k DPS or something like that. So that are often very loved in some raids, and for some specific mechanics like the big whelp on Eunuxia, the heart or the ad in Hakar and Sulgarup, killing the ad for Gar, killing Change for Major Domo, just having a big Earthshock ready for important mechanics and stuff that has to be killed instantly. Earthshock is very nice for that, and not many builds can pull that off, so it has that going at least. So now is the question, would I pursue this build like I did with the Wild Imps when I saw there was potential? For now, I would probably not, because my main issue is that I'm missing 2 legendary talents to roll the build, and I'm missing the aftershocks, and if I have to prestige until I hit the aftershock, I could that and then pursue the build. But again, I'm not that high of a prestige level yet, so I think it would be a better chance for me to just wait for my prestige level to get higher and then try to roll for it. Since this build, as you saw, I basically have 0 abilities for it, so I would really like to have like a stance for the build and have the 2 other shocks versions to test, the ice shock and the frost flame shock. But yeah, I like this build, super fun playstyle, and it has a nice spot in the raids with the earth shock burst, and they had a lot of potential if you really min-max it and get all the talents, and especially since the build has like the crit cap, so getting the crit cap can really like spike the DPS in the build. Alright, and that is the end of the video. For the giveaway, I'm gonna be pulling the next name in like 84 hours, so that will be the timeline before I'm gonna post the next video and include the next winner. And yeah, I hope you like this shorter version of Legendary Breakdown. I will try to do more of these when I just cover interesting stuff I test, and I don't plan to go really ham with the Resolute and really go in depth with it, and don't have the time to make a fully build guide, but just want to get as much information and my testing out as possible. So again, thanks a lot for watching, see you in the next one.